Hi folks, welcome to a bonus book haul. I've been trying to do just one a month, but for reasons that will become apparent, I'm doing this as an extra. Last weekend, I'm recording this on the 2nd of November. Last weekend, I went down to Dorset, which is a couple of hours down the road from me, to see Bob, who is amongst other things, a book dealer. And he specialises in science fiction books, magazines, ephemera, all sorts of things. And I've been keen to visit for a little while. It is not normally open to the public, but I asked nicely and he said yes. I'll put a little bit of a video clip in a few minutes, just showing you the inside of his little warehouse, which is a converted garage. And it has floor-to-ceiling shelves, several bays of them. And there are, I don't know, must be thousands of books in there of various kinds. You find me here in the Aladdin's cave of books that is Bob's garage, where he keeps all of his books for sale. And this is just one bay, and it is chock full of books. Just incredible. And there's another 7 or 8 like this, plus an upstairs bit, which has got another, I don't know how many thousand books in it. I need to actually look at the books, so I'm not going to linger too much with the video. You can see what I bought on the other side. So I had a great time browsing his shelves, and although I went in with a list, I mainly came out with random stuff, as you'll see. So we'll start with this one. Bob very kindly gave this to me, and it is The Ultimate Guide to Science Fiction, an A to Z of science fiction books by title, by David Pringle. And that's not the last time that his name will be mentioned today. So this is the same guy that did the 100 best science fiction books, and that covers the sort of period 1949 to 1984. And this this has several thousand science fiction books in it, so that could be dangerous, couldn't it? And they are just listed alphabetically, and he gives them a rating from 0 to 4 stars. So one of these days I'll have a flick through it and see which ones he thinks are 4-star novels, and maybe I'll do a video on those. But so that's just something nice to flick through. It's like an encyclopedia, really. So that was very nice of him to give me that, although possibly a little bit dangerous, as I say. So what I did is I spent most of my time looking at the hardback shelves, and all I did was kind of go from shelf to shelf, and then I would turn over a book that I was interested in, so it was sticking out, and then Bob would follow me and let me know how much it was going to cost me if I wanted to take it home with me. And some of them I put back very quickly because they were way more than I want to spend on an individual book at the moment. But for the most part, we did a pretty brisk trade. First up is The Snow Queen by Joan Vinge. This is the UK first edition by Smith, by Sidgwick and Jackson, and it's in nigh on fine condition. There's a couple of blemishes in it. The Snow Queen is a book that I wanted to read for quite a while, and there is a sequel. I think it's called The Summer Queen, which I'd also like to get hold of. I'm not sure if that's available in hardback or not, but anyway, there it is. Joan D. Vinge, who is, or was briefly anyway, the wife of Werner Vinge. She kept his surname, but they divorced after not many years of marriage, and she's obviously a successful author in her own right, and this is apparently very good. It gets that kiss of death. It gets compared to June on the back blurb, which is always a bit of a worry for a book. And next, I was a very happy camper. I picked up Redemption Arc by Alistair Reynolds, which was the I think it's the second of the Revelation Space trilogy, the original 3 books. And this was one of them. I think I'm missing 2 Alistair Reynolds hardback books in his kind of main sequence of novels, and there's a few novellas floating around that I don't have, and it's in pretty much perfect condition. Lovely jubbly. I was very happy to find China Mieville's City and the City, which is a book I've been looking for in hardback for a little while. And again, it's in absolutely pristine condition. It's bagged. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's as new, basically. And that is a book that I've read previously. I read it in paperback, and I've been looking for it in hardback for a little while. And this is a UK first edition in the Macmillan. Looking very spiffing indeed. As a general comment on the quality of Bob's books, the hardbacks certainly, and a good deal of the paperbacks too, are in really tip-top condition, better than you would normally find in a used bookshop, certainly. Pat Cadigan's Tea from an Empty Cup, which is a bit of a murder mystery. Pat Cadigan is the author of Sinners and Mind Players, I think is the other one. And again, this is a Tor, I think it's a US first edition, and it is in tip-top condition. Nothing wrong with it. I gave myself a bit of a conundrum next. I found Bob had a memory called Empire by Arcady Martin on his shelves in hardback. It's a US I think it's a US first edition in hardback in the Tor. And I now need to find a memory called A Desolation Called Peace, which is the sequel. I have these in paperback, and I shall move those on once I get the sequel in hardback as well. I quite enjoyed them. You know, people get sniffy about them because they're recent space opera, but I like them. At the risk of being boring, this is again in absolutely perfect condition. There's nothing wrong with it. Pages are nice and bright. It's in as new condition. Next, there's a couple of Ian MacDonald's. Having spoken to him a few weeks back, I was asking him about his Evernest books, which were kind of YA books. It was originally supposed to be a series of 5. But they didn't sell all that well, and so only 3 were published. The first one is Plains Runner, and this is in a PYR. I forget what that stands for, but that's a US first edition in hardback. Again, it's in tip-top condition. So now I feel obliged to find the other 2 of the 3 that were published. So this is a kind of steampunky, London-y type thing, airships, that kind of jazz. And Ian has a very soft spot for these books. He thinks that they move along very swiftly. They were a ton of fun for him to write. And he persuaded me that I should be, despite not being a young adult anymore, sadly, that I should read them. So who am I to argue? And then I found this PS, it's a small press publisher edition of Tendaleo's Story, which I think is a novella set in the same sort of world as Chaga or Evolutionary Shore. I think it was published in the US, and Carinya, I think it is the second one. So I believe it's set in that same sort of Afrofuturist world. And this has an introduction by none other than Robert Silverberg, once again in tip-top condition. I've been on a bit of a Stephen Baxter buying spree recently, so I was very pleased to find Vacuum Diagrams, which is a short story collection, I think in the Zeeley sequence kind of universe. And it's in perfect, pristine, I think unread condition, really. This one did cost me, along with The City and The City, a little bit more than the others, but not outrageously so, and I was happy to pay it. And I haven't taken most of these. I haven't taken out of their bags, because why would I? I mean, I don't buy books to sit in bags and never be read. That doesn't compute for me. I'm not that serious a collector, but I'll leave it in its bag until I want to read it, and then I will be quite happy to read it. That is fantastic. I like this. There's several of his books that are in this same kind of livery with the same artwork, or similar style artwork, I should say. So this is Gwyneth Jones' White Queen, which I have in paperback, but I shall pass that on. And this is first edition, and this is it's now a science fiction masterworks book, and there's Gwyneth on the back there. And John Barnes is an author that I've been buying a few books of recently. I haven't actually read any yet, but this is Apocalypses and Apostrophes. I always want to read that as apostrophes, and it's a short story collection, I believe, or maybe there's 1 or 2 novellas in there. There are more to come, but before we do that, I want to talk to you about an offer for viewers of this channel in Bob's little shop. He handed to me several 5 Interzone magazines. They're in as new condition. So Bob recently bought a bunch of stuff directly from David Pringle. David Pringle, for a number of years, was the editor and publisher of the Interzone magazine, which I think primarily, or maybe only in the UK. But it's the magazine where lots of British science fiction authors got their start in short story form. So this one, for example, actually it's got something by Bruce Sterling and William Gibson. There's a Chris Beckett short story. It's got interviews, reviews, that type of stuff in it. And the old favourite readers' letters. This one's got short story by Eric Brown and Norman Spinrad, Richard Calder. So the point being that these are a piece of British science fiction history. They are in perfect condition. He's got about 12 years worth, I think, of these magazines. I think they're, as I say, a little slice of British science fiction history. These are available to viewers of this channel for 95p each, which is significantly below the price that he normally sells them for. So if you're interested in snagging some of that British science fiction history, then you can buy those Interzone magazines for 95p each. I'll put Bob's email address on the screen here so you can see it. You just need to email him, tell him which issues you want. 95p each. You need to mention that you saw this offer on my channel, so just mention Sci-Fi Scavenger in your email, and you'll get that special price of 95p. And just tell him what you want, or you can ask him what he's got, and he'll be able to tell you. Similarly with the books, if you want to buy anything from Bob, He doesn't have an online store. He doesn't have an online catalogue. And the reason for that is partly it would be too much effort to set it up. But also he goes to a lot of book fairs and it's just impossible to manage the outflow of books to those fairs, and any kind of online listing, it would be too difficult to keep up with it. So if you're looking for something in hardback in really fantastic condition, or in paperback, he has a large selection of paperbacks as well. Some of the slightly more obscure ones, some proof copies, most of them in fantastic condition. So just drop him an email with what you're looking for and he'll be able to tell you if he can help you or not. Talking of paperbacks, let's do a few paperbacks. So I went in with my list of things that I'm looking for and came away with almost none of them. It's not quite true to say none of them. So I've been looking for a copy of this for a while. I would have preferred probably a slightly more vintage copy, but it's The Death of Grass. It's a Penguin Modern Classics. It does have the same artwork as the UK first edition of the book. And this is a sort of end of the world type story where all types of grass suddenly stop growing. So that would include cereal crops, and that's a real problem, and rice. So that would be a real problem for world food supplies, obviously, and things go south pretty fast in this book. And then I was looking under R for Roberts to see if they had any Keith Roberts. I was particularly looking for Purvane. I found Molly Zero instead, and it's I think I'm right in saying it's a UK first edition paperback with a splendid helicopter on the front. Whilst we're on the subject of Keith Roberts, I was looking for a copy of Purvane, and Bob had this, which is a galley proof of a US reprint of Purvane, a Ballantine Books edition. It's in unread condition and not normally for sale, or not new anyway. So this will be the full text. It might have the odd typo in it. I would prefer probably to have a nice vintage copy with the artwork on it, but this will do for now. And I've been looking out for one of these for a while. It's the mid-1990s edition of Endymion, which is the third book of the Hyperion Cantos. I've got Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion and The Rise of Endymion in this edition, but I do not have, and didn't have until now, Endymion. I just didn't buy it at the time. The editions that I used to have were of Endymion and Rise of Endymion were US issues with the iconic artwork on them, but I wanted them to match, and so I found The Rise of Endymion in a charity shop months ago, and I was pleased to find this on Bob's shelves, so I picked that up. It does have a bit of spine crease, but these often do, particularly with the glossy black covers. And then I found CJ Cherry, Down Below Station. It's a book I've wanted to read for a while. I'm yet to read any CJ Cherry, and so this might well be where I start. And I grabbed this because it's got the New English Library artwork. I've got several others in this little set, so why not? And I didn't have a copy of this book at all. What's it called? Comic Inferno. And finally, Kate Wilhelm's Juniper Time. She's better known for Where Late the Sweetbirds Sing, but this, according to David Pringle, in his 100 best science fiction books, is better than Where Late the Sweetbirds Sing. So Juniper Time. I was also very happy to find this, Nancy Kress, Steal Across the Sky. This is a Tor, I think, US first edition. This is one of the books that I was missing in the Broderick and De Filippo 101 best science fiction books, and that's from 1985, is it? Yeah, to 2010. That's interesting artwork. And again, in absolutely perfect condition. And then I picked up this mainly because it was there and I felt compelled. Carl Schroeder is a author whose work I was unaware of, and I can't remember the name of the book now that is in one of those in the Broderick and De Filippo list, but there's certainly a book of his that I'd like to find. And is it Permanence, maybe? I can't remember. But anyway, Lockstep is one of his. And Gregory Benford, none other, says Carl Schroeder is one of our best hard SF writers. Another one I was very happy to find is Werner Vinge's Children of the Sky, which is the sequel to A Fire Upon the Deep. And this picks up the story of the children that were stranded with the Tynes on the Tynes world. So those were the telepathic dog packs. And allegedly this is not as good as A Fire Upon the Deep, but for completeness sake, since I've got the other two, it's nice to have the full set in hardback. And then yet another book off of that 101 best science fiction books list. I actually have it in paperback, but having seen it in hardback, I swagged this as well. This is Linda Nagas's Vast. It's one of several in a series. I forget what it's called now. Is it NanoSense, something like that? But I think it can be read more or less on its own. So that's everything that I picked up from Bob. So as I say, you can email Bob your wants, anything you're particularly looking for, and he will have a quick check on his shelves to see if he's got it and get back to you. And again, if you want any of those Interzone magazines, of which he has hundreds, then you can drop him an email and mention this channel, and you'll get them for 95p each. And you can post them anywhere in the world, so it doesn't matter if you're not in the UK. That was my special bonus extra Dorset Bob book haul. So my next problem is how to fit all of that on my shelves. But that's my problem, not yours. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye for now.